Hello everyone, thank you for joining. I wanted to start by welcoming you to our first part of being a pro company course. I'm assuming many of you are actually here in order to learn how to acquire as many customers as possible. One of the things that I want to emphasize this session is that it's also important to acquire the right customers that will stay with you and buy more and do this as efficiently as possible. And obviously that will create a high retention and high customer lifetime value. I'll start by telling a little bit about myself. So my name is Omer Gottlieb. I'm the co-founder of Totango and also Chief Customer Officer. First, you have here all my details, so during, after the session, you can feel free to send me an email, Skype me, or just pick up the phone and call us. What I'm going to try in this session and also in the next 3 sessions is actually be a mentor and share a lot of experience and best practices that we've learned together with many of our customers, some of them that you can see here, that will help you in the journey of becoming actually the pro customer company. And again, the first phase today is all about trial conversion. Our agenda today will start by discussing why become a pro customer company, and then understand the free trial goals and approach. We'll deep dive into free trial optimization methodologies. I'll share a lot of use cases, and then I'll share with you some of the results that you might expect after running a process like this, and of course summarize with the top takeaways. Talk about next steps, and also we'll leave some rooms for question and answers. There's a couple of ways for you to ask question about in this session. You can use the Join Me interface to actually type in questions that we'll be able to see, or you can actually simply send me an email to the email below, ogot@totango.com, and we'll leave some time at the end for some questions. So let's start. Becoming actually a pro customer company. Everybody actually understand, or hopefully everybody understand, that actually customers are controlling now the buying cycle, and companies are beginning to understand that instead of focusing just on product and being a product-centric company, they actually need to be more a customer-centric company. And actually, a pro customer company means 3 things. You actually have to focus on providing value to your customers all the way from the beginning, even if they're not customers yet. You actually have to be proactive, so you need to identify who doesn't see value, and you to make sure you give them an ongoing value. And you have to be professional in the way that you can actually provide this value and the way that you treat your customers. Why becoming a customer company is obvious, but some of the results that we saw, if you focus on customer value, and if you start with the free trial, of course, as we explained today, some of the results would be increase in customer acquisition, customer retention, of course, and eventually higher customer lifetime value, which is what we're focusing in on SaaS business. Now, we're not going to cover everything today. This is just one part out of a 4 webinar series. Again, today is more about free trial conversion. The next one will be about customer lifecycle marketing, customer success management, and then renewals and upsells. You can actually see more content and more resources on the 2 links that are here, but ideally once you attend those webinars, you'll get a much better understanding about what you need to do in order to be a more, say, pro customer company. And let's try and start with defining the goal and the approach of a free trial. And the goal, as we actually define it, is not just to acquire as many new customers as you can. It's also very important to acquire the right customers. And the right customers are people that are buying from the right reason, and they'll stay with you for a long time, and they'll be able to upgrade and add more services simply because you brought the right customers and you provide them with the right value. And if you do this entire process from the beginning, and again, the first step is doing it right and the free trial, but later, this will actually result in high retention and high customer lifetime value. So the main, I'd say the first lesson that I'd like to actually share with you and that we learn from other customers. It's not just focusing on number, it's focusing on quality and the right customers that actually will buy. Because eventually if somebody will make a decision or quote unquote you'll force him to make a decision to buy it, that's not the right customer, they'll leave. You're better off not having this customer at the beginning than, again, counting it as a conversion and then churn. So focus on acquiring the right customers. And yes, you need to focus to streamline this, optimize it, and do the, get as many as you can, but they need to be the right customers that actually see value. So that's the main goal for as much as we can see, the main goal of actually a free trial process. Now, the main idea to do that, and that's going to be, again, the second lesson of this presentation, is in order to do that, you first need to provide value and build trust, and then sell. If you start selling before customers sees value, either you're going to lose or it's going to be much, much more difficult to actually convert them, and even then when you convert them, they may not be the right customers. So the idea is that give to get. Provide value, and we'll speak about what's the value and how to provide it, but you need to think of how do I provide value and build trust with my customers before I approached and convince them to buy. And ideally, if you do that right, you don't even need to approach them. They'll come running to you and say, we want to buy because we saw value, we trust you, you give us what we want, and it's just a matter of discussing the commercials. So provide value first, build trust, and then later on sell. The second thing that I encourage you is actually to think outside of the box. People think of a free trial as I can give them access to my application for 15 days. But it doesn't have to be like this. I mean, it's all about providing value first. A couple of examples is, one of them is Dropbox. So you can actually see it as a freemium, but I see it more as a free trial. I do give my customers or my prospect value first. When they're ready, and they have a lot of mechanisms and methodologies to define who's ready, either they'll provide you with the self-service mechanism to upgrade, or they'll approach you and make this help, but it's going to be much, much more easier because you know what they are, you saw the value, and again, it's now just a matter of commercial. So it doesn't have to be just free access 15 days to my application. Another example would be, could be this webinar. I mean, one of the things that Totango provides to its customers is knowledge, and by providing you with knowledge, hopefully, ideally, will build trust, and later on, it'll be easier for us also to convert you to actually paying customers. So there's probably a lot of other examples that you can think of, but again, free trial doesn't necessarily mean online application for access for 15 days. So that's what about the goals and the approach of free trial, and again, the main thing, provide value and then sell later. And now deep dive more on how do you do that, and we call it the free trial optimization. The main methodology that we have here, and this is something that we've done successfully with many of our clients and saw a lot of great results, is the following. Provide the first value. Then, and I'll drill down to each one of these phases in a minute. Provide the first value. Then actually segment your prospects and understand who's there, who's not there, who was there and stopped. Then actually plan different campaigns. And it could be, again, automatic or human-based campaigns. I'll speak about different types of campaigns to actually make sure you drive your prospects to see value. And, of course, always measure it, optimize, because, there's going to be changes in the market, changes in your product, in your processes. So it's always about, is this the first value? Is this enough value to buy? Am I speaking with the right customers? Am I doing the right things with them? And continue to measure and fix this. First value. One of the most important things for you is actually to define the first value for your customers. And again, it doesn't have to be an application, but in this webinar, I'll focus specifically on that. And, quote-unquote definition of first value is the highest business value delivered in the shortest amount of time. Now, this is something very generic, and there could be very specific examples. You could have a first value delivered after 1 hour, or you can have first value delivered after 3 months. It's really up to you to your product complexity, to your customers and your sales process. So ideally, if you're a project management company with a no-touch business, then ideally people should be able to see first value within an hour. They need to create the first project. If you're a marketing automation solution, sometimes it's more about explaining the methodology and configuring things and running the first campaigns, which might take 3 weeks. But the idea is that if somebody is about to buy, they won't buy before they actually reach the value point. And again, the value point could be after day 1 or day 10 or day 90, and that's something that you'll need to figure out for your business, and of course something that we can help it. But you need to engineer your process to make sure people will see value. For example, if I'm a project management company, I would expect that somebody that starts a free trial, they need to create a first project, they need to create tasks. They actually need to invite people, again, because my strength is collaboration within my team members, and they need to view reports. If they saw that, they saw value. If they haven't completed those activities, I won't be able to sell them because they weren't convinced about the value of my product. And ideally people will move along this way, and of course a lot of people can drop out and churn. The entire idea of the trial conversion optimization is to drive people to this value and attend to those that actually don't see that, and we'll speak in a minute on how we do that. So define your first value. What is my first value that people will say that's enough for me to continue, or that's enough for me to actually buy? Some examples, and again, if I'm QA test software, it could be that somebody's opening the first 2 cases and adding 2 device types. If I'm a marketing automation solution, it could be running the first campaign and maybe designing and actually launching my first landing page. Project management solution, creating project, signing tasks, running reports, invite people. A help desk solution, creating 3 tickets, opening 3 support tickets, spending 60 minutes in an application, inviting 2 agents to use it. So there's a lot of examples. Actually, there's some more examples on our websites. But again, you have to define what is the first value that you expect any prospect that starts a free trial to reach. And again, ideally, it would be within a few days. Now, once we define the first value, it's important for me to understand that not everybody will get there. And I shared here with you some of the statistics that actually we see from our customers. So usually, everybody from the entire population that signs up to a free trial, you have about 70% which are what we call curiosity sign-up. They don't have any immediate or concrete plan to buy and evaluate. I'm not saying that you need to ignore them. First, you need to be able to identify them and assign the right resources for them. But if you're getting to about 20 to 30%, you're doing great. I mean, 20 to 30% is people that are actually evaluating you. I'm not saying that 30% is your conversion rate, but 30% people are actually evaluating you. You're in a good position. Statistically, that's what we see with our customers. So it's important for you to understand that although you do need to design your process to make everybody go or reach the value point, not everybody will actually get there. How do we actually drive them to see the value? And that starts with actually the segmentation. And it is that not everyone is the same. That's one of the main important things that you need to remember in trial conversion, but even later on in onboarding and customer success, lifecycle marketing, which we'll cover. You cannot treat your entire prospect base or customer base the same because they're not. And the idea is that you have at least in trial conversion at least 4 generic initial segments. And we call it people that are actually not really evaluating you. And your goal would be to try to get them back in game or understand that that's not the time, which is great. So let's get them back to lead nurturing. The second is actually people that stop evaluating you. So you actually have to get them back to engage. You need to identify that they did use you but stop, and then you actually need to get them re-engaged. The third one are people that are actively evaluating you. They haven't got to the first value yet or enough value to buy, but they're on track. They're doing fine. It could be just the first or second day on trial, but it could be very active. But for example, if I'm a help desk solution, they did create tickets and are working on them, but they didn't configure the dashboard or they didn't invite agents. And the fourth segment are actually people that are ready to buy. And I wrote here, collect the money, which is sometimes true, because if you do design your product and your processes that people see value as soon as possible, they'll actually buy without you, with having you the need to ask for them to buy. So these are generic, and but they're great for any business to start with. And of course, there's a lot of fine-tunes within. Some of the examples I can share with you, a segment that we called cold fish. People that started trial but didn't do anything, whether they just sign up and disappeared, or clicked a few times and then didn't do anything. So that's one segment. The other thing we called hot starts. And you need to think about what are the indication of hot starts. Again, other than doing the main features and functions, some of the things that I shared you here. If somebody investing time in integrating your solution to another solution, if somebody is syncing data from other systems, inviting colleagues, if somebody actually investing time in customizing, just even uploading his own logo, these are usually great indicators to identify this is somebody that, okay, that's a good start. I need to actually deal with them differently than I deal with the cold fish. Other indicators or segments could be people that are on the way. Again, example, they spent 60 minutes. They did open 2 tickets. They did invite a colleague, but they haven't completed yet. Lapsed is something which is, I find lately, very important. Lapsed is people that did get to a value point. Again, they're not just on the way. They did whatever you want them to do. For example, if I'm a project management company, they did create 3 projects. They did assign tasks. They did view the reports. But then 5 days into the trial, they stopped. We call it lapsed. What you want to do right now is to identify this in real time and make sure you speak with them, because the one thing you know about these guys is that they're actively evaluating solutions like you, because they did take the time to invest and evaluate your product. Whether they didn't understand it, they don't like the user interface, they don't need a solution like this right now, or they're simply evaluating competition, this is something that you need to know now so you can actually take action. The same goes for ready to buy. And the last segment, and again, these are just examples. There's a lot of best practices that we can share with you later, and you need to think about what are the right segments for you. But I would also argue that you need to treat the last day of trial differently for any one of those segments. So ideally, or not ideally, usually most of the cloud companies are sending you emails in the last day of trial saying your trial is about to expire by now. What we're saying is that that's okay, but you have to be able to change the message, really, whether I was a cold fish or somebody that stopped or somebody that did see value, because if you send a generic message, you're going to lose a lot of customers there. If you do identify that, hey, I noticed that you did invest time in us, but you didn't actually complete the trial in time, maybe you need more time, you'll have much more higher conversion rate. So again, these are just type of examples, or some examples of segments. I do encourage you to think of what are the right segments for my business, but I do encourage you to start with these 4 generics. Start from here, and then you can expand and have much more fine-tuned, but this should cover you to the start. People that aren't evaluating you, people that did and stopped, people that are on the way and actively evaluating you, and people that are actually ready to buy. More thing to consider when segmenting, and again, this might be specific to different type of companies and not to others, but sometimes those things affect behavior. For example, demographic. If I'm a big customer, I probably behave differently than a small customer. If I'm US-based customers, maybe I should behave differently than somebody that came from I don't know, Europe. Sometimes type of customers, so different verticals may behave differently. Sometimes it's even about the role of the person that actually is doing the trial. If I'm a project management guy, maybe I should actually be driven to different behavior than somebody who's a CEO. And also any previous interactions. So a segment could be a combination of usage, what is done in the application, in addition to demographic and also previous interactions. If somebody from my sales team actually spoke with a prospect during the trial, I would expect that will change the behavior. So I do want to focus on people that I did speak with them and moved versus people that I did speak with them and didn't do anything later. Again, why? Because I want to define the right campaigns and approach them, and that's exactly our next issue to speak. I actually call it engagement plays. How do I make sure, based on, again, on definition of the first value and based off those different segments that I define, I want to make sure that I push them to value, that I push them to actually be engaged with us. And the main thing to remember here, it's the right action to the right customer at the right time. Ideally, when you define an engagement play or a campaign, you actually need to define those 4 things. What is the goal? What is the event? So when this should happen? What is the channel? And the message. And you need to remember that the goal isn't necessarily, and I'll be even strict on that, is usually the goal for a campaign, for a playbook, or for an engagement play, isn't to convert more. The goal is to actually make sure they progress to the next phase. For example, if I focus on people that right now are cold fish, remember those are people that started and didn't do anything, my goal would be first to identify if they're actually really evaluating me or want to evaluating me and get them back to game. So I want them to actually start evaluating. I don't want them to buy. So I don't want to design my engagement play to convince them to buy. I just need to understand this. If somebody actually lapsed, so stopped using me, but he got to a value point 4 and then stopped, my goal could be I want to get them on the phone. Again, don't sell. Let's make sure they progress to the next phase, and with those that lapse, I want them to be on the phone. So I'll actually design my engagement play to how do I make sure that such a customer actually simply pick up the phone and call me or agrees to take a phone call with me. So when you think about the engagement plays, think about what should be the goal. When am I sending this? What is the channel? And what is the message? All towards actually make sure they progress to the next phase, which isn't necessarily the end goal of buying. Some example of engagement tools are, again, there could be many, and it's really depending on your business process, whether you have an inside sales team or not, what's the price of your product, how complex is it, what's the type of the customers, where usually they are. But usually it's a combination of some of those engagement tools. The first and obvious is a sales call. I mean, I do want to plan my engagement plays, so when I identify somebody that is off track, I'll pick up the phone and call them. So the trigger would be when I do identify somebody like that, an internal alert should be sent to my sales team. They'll pick up the phone and call the specific guy. It could be emails campaign. It could be invoking a chat in your application. It could be inviting them to view a video, sending them a survey, inviting them to a webinar. It's sometimes even just asking them either by email or by other means, would you like us to call you? The last thing that we use in Totango, and also I know other companies like New Relic is a great example, they send you a t-shirt. If you actually, in New Relic, which is a great company, if you actually completed the integration phase during trial, you're not a paying customer, but you completed the integration phase, you get a t-shirt. So those, again, think out of the box. There could be many engagement tools, and the main one are, of course, the sales calls or an email, but don't be limited just in, okay, so it's now a call or it's now an email. It could be other things as well that can drive them, again, how do I push them to the next step? And again, the idea is to be proactive. Based on the definition of first value, based on the segments, this is how you need to define your engagement plays and engagement tools. Again, if I drill down a little bit on the sales team, so an engagement play with the sales team for the right segments, of course. Again, those segments might vary based on your process, but first it's about focus. So I don't want my sales team to call anybody anytime. I want them to call the right person at the right time. And it's usually based on the insights and the segments. For example, this is a high qualified lead that did evaluate me but stopped. I want my sales team to call him the minute that's that, or maybe a day later. Again, really depends. You need to define this. If somebody is ready to buy, they need to get a phone call. if somebody's online, for example, in Totango, we do let customers know who from the prospect is online. So if you want to improve your contract rate, so combine the insights with online. And, of course, be proactive. So we do let your sales team know in real time this is a prospect that needs attention, again, really based on those segments and engagement plays. But before they do that, if you're in sales or manage salespeople, make sure that they actually learn much more about the prospect before calling him. Why? Because our methodology says, and that's some of the based on some of the results that we saw, the main idea of a call from a sales team, and it might not be the right phrase to call it a sales team, but it's all about driving to value. I would argue that 80% of the time spent on the phone with the customer should actually be towards making sure they see value, and just 20% it's all about I'm going to help you to buy. For example, if I'm a help desk solution, if one of my sales team speaks with a prospect, hey, it's great, I saw that you opened your first ticket. Did you know that you can invite a colleague? And by the way, when you invite a colleague, there's a great ROI behind it because other companies did that and so forth. So the main, I'd say, idea of a phone call would be to actually make sure that they starting to see value or drive them to the right path to see value and then later on convert. So again, focus, learn more about your prospects, what they've done, what they haven't done, and plan the content of the call to make sure, again, make sure they're on track to see value and then later sell. So that's a playbook by or engagement play by a sales team. A few examples here could be how-to emails. So when somebody actually completed 1 or 2 steps, if you have like a setup wizard, this should be your next step, and this is something, of course, that you can either automate if you are in a marketing tool, or actually, again, use a person to speak with them, but make sure they progress to the next phase. Again, by New Relic, they do identify that somebody didn't reach a specific milestone, they don't see value yet. They're actually sending an email saying, hey, do you need help? Do you want to speak with us? This is a link to help you. Other example could be checklist email. That's great that you've done this and this in Asana, for example, but we also recommend that you actually do the next thing. And again, it's important to define in a very good way what should be the steps. These aren't just, that's what I think a customer does do. These are the steps that your customers need to complete in order to see value. And the last example by one of our customers, Zendesk, is actually putting in your application an in-app video. So if you do identify that somebody isn't exploring the right areas in your product, so in addition to trying to speak with them, in addition to sending an email, you can actually also in real time change your product or put different content in your product to help them do that. So for example, here is that they did identify somebody isn't using the list of tickets. They popped up a video saying you can actually have a tutorial of understanding how to view the list. So the main subject here was, again, define the right engagement plays, really based on the first value that we define, really based on the different segments, and design the right processes. This could be human-based processes by sales. It could be automatic process by marketing. It could be in-application messages or content. Usually the best way is actually a combination, but design the right processes that will make sure that your customers are actually either see value now, or being pushed to see value. And again, sales will actually come later. The fourth thing about optimizing the trial conversion after we've done our thing is about tracking and improving. Why? Because things are continuously changing. Your product will continue to change, your market and competition are changing, your processes are going to change, and you have to have the ability to continuously track and improve what you're doing. A couple of examples that I'm sharing with you right here is actually cohort engagement. So we're tracking improvement by segments. And again, don't track just how many people start a trial and how many people convert. I'm not undermining this metric. It's very important. The only problem is that it won't teach you enough. If you really want to know how to convert more, once you define those right segments, and here, again, these are examples for the 4 generic segments, and you can have different specific one, you want to make sure that you're improving, that people that are cold fish or not really evaluating you, the number is decreasing. And people that actually are actively evaluating you, the number is increasing. People that are ready to buy, the number is increasing. So make sure you design the right reporting mechanism to actually, by cohort, make sure that you're tracking the right things, improving all the things. So one thing is, am I doing the right, or actually am I segmenting the right prospect base? Am I using the right engagement plays? And on a cohort base, is this improving? The second thing which you do, and this is something I do recommend you to do, but a little bit later in the process, is a deeper analysis. This is just a sample we see here, but this is what we call a conversion analysis. Actually, a team of data scientists goes over your data and trying to find what are those value indicators, what are those conversion indicators that will make people buy. Again, the numbers here, of course, aren't right. It's just sample data. But what we do identify here is that people that are using, this is for a help-desk solution, people that are actually have 3 active users that spend more than 60 minutes in application, convert in about 60% more than actually everybody else. There's also a golden path, so you can actually define, again, the value path. What are the things that people are doing that eventually they actually lead to conversion? So it's all about understanding the right action, defining the right value, and defining the right process to make sure I'm pushing people to value. But then again, on a continuous level, keep measuring and see maybe something changed. Maybe I did introduce a feature that is now more important than the other, and people that are using it are converting more. I'm not saying you have to do it on a monthly basis. Usually on a quarterly basis, that's enough. But again, identify the right metrics to be able to push customers or prospects to value. So that was about the methodology, and I'll summarize it in a minute. But results you might expect. What should happen when actually I complete such a process in improvement type conversion? And I'll start with a high level. Some example that we share here is customer acquisition increased by 37%. That's a very big number, and hopefully you'll be able to improve your conversion rate in similar numbers. But to be honest, it takes time and tries. So you can't expect that after a week your conversion rate increases in 37%. The idea is you have to start with improving each step. Don't focus necessarily on improving the entire process end to end. Identify the steps that you're good at. Identify the steps that actually needs more attention, whether it's defining the right value, whether it's the segmentation, maybe it's one segment versus the other, whether it's improving the engagement plays, whether it's about the right reporting. Start with improving each step and then push the value. What I'm doing usually with our customers is, okay, let's identify the main segment that we think will result great results. Let's focus on improving this segment and then go to switch to other segments as well. But quicker result than improving trial conversion, this is something that you should be able to see within even a week or a couple of weeks. Again, after you start such a process, you should be able to see shift in segments. So for example, less people are cold fish, or less people stay just more than 2 days in the labs, and actually more people are moving to the active segments. Other things are higher or open and click rate. When you do define the right campaigns, and this is something that we'll cover in the next webinar about life cycle marketing campaigns. One of the things you can actually measure really quickly is, do more people actually open and then click the emails that I'm sending? Because if you'll send the right email with the right context at the right time, ideally you should be able to also view higher open and click rates. It will also enable you to shorten the time to buy, because if people are actually see value quicker than before, then they'll convert quicker. And it's also about higher contact rate. Because if the sales team knows exactly when to try and speak with the customer, then the contact rate will increase. And of course, in the longer term, and it's not that long, but all I'm saying is just about setting the expectation. It's not 2 weeks. You should be able to see much higher retention rate than you actually have now. So those are the main things that I wanted to share with you in the presentation today. 5 main takeaways that I want you to take from such a session. What do you need to remember? The first thing is you do need to acquire the right customers. Again, people that see value, they'll buy easily, and more important, and this is something we'll focus on the next webinars as well, they'll keep staying with you, they'll pay you more and more, and really this will lead to much better business results. You need to drive to first value first. Design your entire process, and from the minute they actually hit your website, to the trial sign up, to actually, if you do have an inside sales team, to their conversations, to the emails, to the content to provide, design it when you think about how do I drive people to first value. Everything else will follow. The way you do that, you actually have to segment your trial users, because not everybody is the same, again, really based on whether they're on their way to see value or not there yet, stopped, or will not be there anyway, and actually run the right engagement campaigns. Again, those campaigns could be the right calls at the right time from the salespeople. It could be the right emails and other ways, and continuously improve and measure. It's not a one-time process. It's something that you have to continue measure, continue improve. That's the best way to actually improve the trial conversion. And with that, my call to action with you is actually go out there and think how you create recurring value. How do you provide more value to your customers so actually revenue will follow. That's the main philosophy about being a pro-customer company. Once you change your mindset to be that, create recurring value, revenue will follow.